Hey guys, today we're finally going to finish the last of our alphabet in the lowercase cursive. So, as usual, let's start with some warm-ups. We're going to do some ripples, and then waves, and then hills, and mountains. And we could do some loops too. That always helps. And then the upside down loops. All right, perfect. Let's go ahead and start. The letter W, or U, I should say, looks like this. Notice how the left half of the letter is a little bit curved, but once we write the stem, it's going to be a lot more straight going down. So curvy going up and slightly down, and then straight. Curvy and then straight and straight. Practice a few more of that and we'll move on. All right, let's do the letter V. The letter V goes like this. So very similar to the letter U, except of course there's no stem on that right-hand side. I'm going to start the midline and also end at the midline. How are you guys doing? If you want to pause it so you could try a few more, feel free to do so. Okay, let's do the letter W. Now the letter W is sort of a mix of the two. Notice how the middle part of the W, this little piece right here, I made that a little bit lower than the others. You don't necessarily have to do that. It's more of a personal preference. Now the reason I do it is because if I see it all the way up, sometimes this piece reminds me of the letter U, and so it just clarifies it a little bit for me. All right. You guys are doing great. Let's go to the next letter, the letter X. The letter X has this little curvy leg and then a straight leg. A little curvy leg and then a straight leg. Just like the letter I and the letter T in cursive, the letter X doesn't completely get finished until you've finished writing out the word. And we'll see an example of that later on. Let's try one more of the letter X. Good job. The letter Y looks a lot like the letter U, except of course we're going to go past the bottom line so that we can create that nice beautiful loop at the bottom. Let's try one more. And there you go. You guys can play around with how big, how low you want the loop to be. But generally I like to kind of keep it proportional, right? So in other words, you don't want to make it too large unless you're trying to be super, artistic with it or something, then it's fine. But also you don't want to make it too small like this. So try to make them both a little bit even. I would say maybe these two are a really good example of like a typical Y. I mean, this one's not terrible either, right? But certainly not that. And then this just seems a little too big on the loop. Okay, last but not least, the letter Z. So we're going to start kind of halfway between the bottom and the midline, and you're going to create, it kind of looks like a letter or the number 3. Okay, some people say it's almost like you're making half of a heart, and then you're going to just come back up slightly and then create that big loop. This one takes a little bit of practice, but I think you guys can do it quite easily. So try a couple more. Great. Okay, you guys, we have finished the lowercase cursive alphabet. Now let's try some practice words with these letters that we just learned. So I'm going to write them out in print first. Let's try the word box. Actually, let's do boxes. And then we'll try the word vote. And then we'll try the word, let me go up here. Maybe let's try buzz. and rye, like the bread. Okay, let's start with the boxes. So again, try to visualize each letter first. I'm going to go ahead and write them out separately. Okay, now let's imagine them attached. So over here, it's going to attach at the midline. Over here, it's going to attach at the midline. And then here at the bottom line, and then here at the bottom line. Okay, you guys ready? Here we go. Start with the letter B. And then there's the O. The one leg of the X, notice how I didn't finish it, and only after I finish the S do I go ahead and cross my X. Okay, let's try it again. B, here's the O, one leg of the X, into the E, the S, and cross. How did you guys do? Awesome, let's go to the next word. Vote. Separately again, here's the letter V, the letter O, the letter T, and the letter E. Okay, let's imagine putting these together. Okay, this is a little bit tricky. You want to be careful because the O ends at the midline while the T starts at the bottom line. Okay, so when we connect them, we're actually going to connect at the midline. I know it seems a little bit confusing right now, but you'll see in just a minute. And then of course the T and the E, that's simple. It's just a simple connection at the bottom line. Okay, so here we go. V ends at the midline. It's going to connect to the O also at the midline. Watch what happens when I create a T from here. Notice how I did not go all the way to the bottom line to start my T. I just went ahead and started from the midline and then went up to complete my T. Okay, now I probably could have done a little bit better. This is not the greatest thing to see, that kind of space there. So let's try again. V, O, T, and E. Okay, that's a little bit better. Okay, all right, you guys try one more time. If you need to pause it, go ahead and do so. How'd you do? You guys are doing so great. Two more words, okay? Next is buzz. All right. I'm just going to go ahead and do these together. So B, and then U, and then here's our first Z, and our second Z. Okay. If I were to critique myself, I would say, it'd be nice if these Z's were a little bit more identical, maybe the same height instead of one being lower than the other, but not terrible. Okay. Now let's go to the word rye. We haven't seen R in a while, but hopefully you guys have been practicing. Okay, here's the R. And I'm going to go ahead and do these connected as well. Y and E. Okay, did you guys notice how I went all the way down and finished my R at the bottom line before I connected it to the top? Okay, the reason you don't want to connect the R and the Y in the same way that we connected the O and the T in the word vote is because watch what happens. If you just sort of did something like this, right? We sort of have this awkward, sort of incomplete R. And so you really want to try to finish it out. It's harder to appreciate or to even identify a half completed R, but for something like vote, I'm going to go ahead and write another version over here. You don't necessarily need to start from the bottom to be able to tell that that's supposed to be the letter T, right? But with the letter R, you definitely want to make it go all the way down to the bottom line, and that way it doesn't just kind of look like a truncated R. Okay, good job, guys. We finally finished the lowercase alphabet. In the next video, we're going to start the uppercase. You guys did great. See you next time.